Rock Surge!
Aegis Wall!
Chom's Touch!
Summon Running Ally! Well, hello everybody! What's going on? I'm guessing you guys are all here for Ward's class? Right this way. Alright, everyone. I'm sure you guys have had a wonderful day today after your class at Evocation. Now it's time for a little defensive magic. Here we are going to talk about the counterweight to Evocation magic, wards. Before we talk about spells, mechanics, or tiers, I want to establish a principle. The best defense is positioning. Not shielding, not absorbing, but positioning. If you can prevent an attacker from reaching you, that is better than blocking the attack once it arrives. If you can control an angle, terrain, distance, or the line of sight, you can spend 0 spell slots. 0 spell slots is the most efficient defense in the game. Ward magic amplifies smart positioning. It does not replace it. Now, ward spells exist for one purpose: to reduce incoming impact without collapsing your spell economy. Unlike Evocation, ward does not win by ending fights quickly. Wards win by outlasting them, by denying the momentum of the enemy caster, by forcing your opponents to overspend. Let's start with low tier wards. Most early level ward spells revolve around one of two mechanics: advantage on defense or minor directional protection. Mirror Ward, Arcane Shield, Quick Barrier techniques. These are not walls, these are adjustments. The subtle arcane reinforcement that gives you advantage on your next defense roll. A brief pulse that absorbs a portion of the damage. These cost little magic, and that's intentional because deflecting cost is less than maintaining it. A constant one-way shield, a fully sustained barrier drains resources quickly. Low tier wards is reactive. You cast it when you need, you block, you reposition, you reset the tempo. The mistake new players make is trying to stay permanently shielded. You're not meant to be untouchable, you're meant to be efficient. Now, when we move on to the mid-tier wards, this is where wards become tactical. Mid-tier wards follow the same core principle. They block only what needs blocking. Instead of projecting a full body barrier, mid-tier spells reinforce one direction, one angle, one vector. A forward shield, a lateral guard, a protective arc behind an ally. You are choosing where the threat comes from and fortifying that direction. Mechanically, this increases defense at low cost because you are narrowing the protection field. Less surface area, less magic required. This is where positioning truly matters. If you stand in the center of open ground, mid-tier wards feel weak. But if you stand in a corridor, against a wall, behind a pillar, or at a choke point, they become devastatingly efficient. A wise duelist knows: force your opponent to approach from one direction, then fortify that direction. Now, when we reach the high tier wards, you're going to see that these rare, expensive, battlefield-defining spells, they're like domes of energy, fully protective spears, arcane sanctuaries. Within these domes, magic cannot pass through, spirits cannot enter, and shadows cannot slip between the layers. However, this is critical. Regular weapons can pass through. Ward magic is tuned to the arcane frequency, and it rejects magic, veil entities, and other shadow intrusion, but steel is steel. So it's best to carry a shield. This design prevents high-tier wards from becoming invincible fortresses, though they are anti-magic sanctums, not physical bunkers, which means if you cast a high-tier dome in open combat, you are safe from spells, but vulnerable to blades. Again, positioning matters. Let's talk about your win conditions with a ward. Ward does not usually win by reducing someone to 0 hit points. Wards win by exhausting your opponent, by forcing them to burn their spell slots, and by causing them to overextend. By denying their succession of casting windows. In duels, defending is one of 4 core actions for a reason. When you set your positioning, much like your evocation stance, you may take a defensive stance. This gives you a +2 AC bonus at the right moment and can shatter a tempo chain. If an evocation specialist is attempting casting in succession and you break their first hit, you deny the follow-up's pressure. Momentum dies and ward tempo is denial. It is not flashy, it is not dramatic, it is disciplined. Now, in your mindset, there are 2 kinds of ward casters, your reactive wardens and your predictive wardens. Reactive wardens wait. They respond and they defend after the attack begins. The predictive warden reads the stance, anticipates, and therefore fortify before impact. A predictive warden will spend less magic in the long run because prevention is cheaper than recovery. And that brings us back to the first principle. The best defense is positioning. If you can force a caster into a narrow lane, break a line of sight, or use terrain to remove flanking, anchor your back to a wall, your wards become exponentially more efficient. A low-tier directional shield in a hallway can outperform a high-tier dome in an open ground. That is tactical thinking. Now, mechanically, wards pair well with the reactive ward, reducing damage per round, unyielding focus, protecting your concentration, battlecaster, or leyline awareness. And for team synergy, an enchanter can boost allies while maintaining layered protection, and a mage can borrow defensive spells. A shaman can anchor a spirit inside of a warded dome, and Shadow Lexicon can step between barriers. A ward is not isolation, it is structure. Let me give you an example. You're facing a brutal duelist evoker. They open with a spark bolt, you defend, advantage, it misses. They attempt casting in succession, but without that first hit landing, their momentum collapses. Next round, you position behind cover, cast a directional mid-tier ward, and now they must step up into your chosen lane. They cast Arc Surge. Your reinforced direction absorbs it. They are now low on spell slots. You are completely stable. Your stability is your power. Eventually, they overextend, and you do not win because you dealt the most damage. You win because they ran out first. That is warding. It is the principle, it is restraint, it is strategic denial. And on that note, a true master of ward does not rely on barriers. They rely on understanding of space. Block an attacker's path, and you never need to block their attack. If evocation is decisive force, then a ward is an immovable wall. Next time, I'm sure in your guys' future classes, you will have a great time over at Charms, and I hope that we get to see you again. But for now, please remember, defense is not hiding. It is choosing where the fight happens.